I'm going to make a haversack. I went ahead and I've marked it out. I've got 18 inches from one side to the other because I'm going to be allowing for an inside stitch on that. This pen that I'm using right here says that it is used for fabric marking. So we're going to find out. So there's the mark. It says that it won't. It doesn't really matter because it's going to be on the inside anyway. But then I'm going to cut that out and we'll Alright, what I did was I squared this out. Now it's going to be, make sure I got my measurements, flip it around. Yeah, it's 14 inches wide, and that's going to allow for my inseam to come up and be able to sew it in. And I think I got it 16 inches deep. Yeah, 16 and a half. Was my dimensions for the downside of it. Now what I'll do is, since I want that on the inside, you can see it has came back and bled through here to where I can see a line. Now I'm not sure if that picked up very well or not, but it's hard to tell. Alright, what I've got here is I went ahead and I found my mark line for I want my haversack to be. So it is right here. It's going to be 13 and a half inches deep. Same as over here, 13 and a half. Now that leaves the flap for the top. I have almost 10 inches of flap. What I'm thinking with other haversacks that I've had, the problem that I find is when you start stuffing them and filling them up, your haversack starts not being able to go down as far. So what I wanted was to allow overstuffage. See that gap right here? Get it to pan around to it. See this gap right here? Once that starts filling up with something, in case I needed something big, it will allow me to have that extra to be able to carry it up, as opposed to if I brought this all the way up and then I just let it fall flat here. Once I start filling it up, it doesn't start riding right. I think that's my theory. We're not going to say that that is definitely it, because I don't know yet. So with that being the case, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to cut me out. I want a flap on the inside here, a little small pocket area right here that I can keep things in when that's folded down in there. So that's what I'm going to do. But I've got to get my pocket for right here because I want a pocket in there. But if I know that I want that pocket, I need to go ahead and make sure that I fold my seam here like so, and then when I put that pocket in for in there, I'll sew it around the edges here. I don't want a full pocket, I just want it to be in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get this sewn in right here where it's folded with the edge down on it, and I'll cut that fray off real quick here so that I've got it, and then that's going to give me that extra that I was speaking of up here. I'll come up whatever I decide to make that fold, whether it's a 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch, probably 1/2 inch mark. And I've got some tape here that I've been using to help me with it. So hold on, let me get the bobbin wound up on this thing here, because on cadence I run her out. So we'll get it bobbed up and flipped up and ready to rock and roll, and then we'll be right back. So, all right, guys, wish me luck. I am no sewing machine guy, in case anybody's wondering. I just do it. All I've done is sewn one straight stitch right across there for the bottom. I know that it's not going to come loose. I'll tell you what I'm doing on all the stuff that I've been doing. That's right, guys. Never trust yourself. At least never trust a bald-headed guy with a sewing machine. Yeah, I don't know. All right. There's that, and then we're going to get ready to pull it out to the other side. And this is my interior pocket. Here will be my interior pocket that is deep enough to put longer sticks, twigs, stuff. But what we're doing, because I know that I don't need it quite that long, here is about how deep it's actually going to be because of the thing. But I wanted to go ahead and sew the whole thing. So when I sew this flap, get down here where you're at. Got you zoomed in too far. When I sew this here, I'm going to have it underneath that flap to when I flip it over, it's going to be sewn into that pocket. Sorry. There. So it's actually going to be about this much cut off. Okay, so here's my inside pouch. You can see how I done that blind seam, I guess is what somebody called it, I don't know. But I went ahead and sewn, so get that little trimmed off. I went ahead and sewn the inside to where I don't have that frayed edge like this is, to where you get friction across it and eventually it starts tearing. Is it the best sewing in the world? Nah. But I'm getting better and better at it. Or better and best, better, who knows. But anyway, now what I'll do is I'll come down here and whenever I make that fold here for my blind seam again on this one, that'll go right into it and that'll be held off, and here's my pocket area. Theory. Hope this works. Center 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. Because I want some room to play. I'm eyeballing this, guys. There. Now, that's semi-stuck. And we come over here. Now I'll come back and sew right through that and that. That leaves me with my little pouch pocket right here. The only thing I'm hoping for is, yeah, it's good. I wanted to make sure that I had enough hand room to get down in there in case I drop something in the bottom. So this does need to be pretty straight. Doesn't have to be super straight. It's a haversack for the woods. But if you're gonna sew, it's either gotta look real crappy so your guy friends won't laugh at you for sewing it, or it's got to look super daggone good for the ladies to go, wow, I feel bad. There's the first stitch, and I'll come back around it with another one. So, except for this time it's going to be a little more annoying. I gotta go 10 times as long. I hope that bobbin doesn't run out. So let's feed her through and start sewing. So now I've got what I think should be about the right length for my haversack, and then I'll be sewing it onto that once I get this pulled through. I'm not even sure how to get it to pull all the way through, but I know I will get it. I think somebody told me once that if I go down to this end and tie a hoe in it and then pull, the whole thing will pull out, but I don't know. But we'll find out. I may just end up pulling it like this and just keep going. There, I come back down to here, making sure that I'm within inside that ring. Then take this, make my line, which I made it to where I would have enough for 2 sets of these. Okay, so we know we're going to be coming over to here on this side, and I can see the lines that I drew. I don't know, you can't see them from there, which is basically I'm going to be sewing it 1/2 inch in. So with that being the case, I see the line. I'm going to come over 2 inches from that 1/2 inch line. Put that down. Two inches here. And now I want it to be below where my pocket is, into that. And that's where I gotta flip it back up in a minute when I sew. But I know that right here is where my seam is. I know you can't see it, but I can feel the rise right there. So I need to make sure I am below that one, so I don't sew into the back of the pocket, which wouldn't hurt anything if it was only a flat, but it would hurt now. So I'm going to come down one, so if that flips up, let's go 1.5 inches, and 1.5. From that line up there. And now I know that I'll be sewing this into this. And I'm just going to be sewing it right straight across. Right there. Man, kind of went crooked. But hey, it's a man's pocketbook. There's my little D-ring. So let's do another one. I'll be doing the same thing, so we'll be right back. Okay, now it's time for me to stitch the sides up. I've turned this thing inside out on that one side so that whenever I pull it around, I'm going to flip it up. As you can see right here, I cornered these edges around. The reason I did that is I wanted to make sure that I didn't have those little sticks, little 90-degree corners poking out. I hope that works. I'm not going to guarantee that it does, but let's start sewing the sides up. Now we'll start turning the machine so it'll kind of go rounded and edged. And there we went. And like all the other stuff, I'm going to make 2 passes on it because I want it double stitched, I guess is the word. What I did was those lines that I made in the beginning, I have come back and put that sticky tape. What that allows me is to be able to go ahead and sew, and I'm just folding that over, pressing it down to give me nice, clean, outside, crisp edges whenever I make that sew. Because I do want this to look presentable from the outside. And who knows? Somebody might want one of these someday. Just kidding. But they might. Yeah, make that. I'm kind of eyeballing this to know where I want to make my next fold. I thought about my Altoids 10. I'm always digging around in there trying to find it in my old one. So I did sew an extra pocket right here that fit an Altoids 10. I may not use it for that, may use it for something else, but I have 2 pockets. One deep pocket goes to right here, and then I have all of my essentials here that would be big enough for me to get a hold of, or anything that I've gathered while I was out, and then my little fire tin could go right there. If you just stick it in this way, your edges are showing. So hold your thing there and then come back this way so that it's there, and so that I made it longer so I could go ahead and get my adjustment that I needed, because I don't want my haversack down that low. I want it to ride right up here. So I made my strapping, webbing, whatever, a lot longer so that I would have room to cut it off. I was going to go with an adjustable, and if I had a bigger, thicker jacket on, I want to allow for that. So it's right here. That should be pretty much where I would want it to ride at. And make sure I got my strap turned twisted. So there we go. Now we'll just, I'm going to adjust it just a smidgen higher up. If I had the other ones, I could make this adjustable. I do not have those. This is a semi-prototype, I guess is what you would call it for me. So, no big deal for me. Alright everybody, it's done. I'm not sure if I got enough room in here for you to be able to see, but my man purse is done. Or my haversack, however you want to call it, wherever you're from. But anyway, I've got this thing done. I sewn in my stitching and stuff. One of the things that I did with it with the excess that I had, I didn't really want to waste it, especially after I had to pull it through. So what I did was I flipped this in, flipped up, I sewed it across, then I dropped it back down, which made another tube. So I've got some extra storage right here for something if I needed it. I don't know what I'd put in there that I wouldn't. It would have to be something I found that was expendable, because I wouldn't put anything major in it. The total distance from the opening pocket's 14 inches long by 12 inches wide. I did sew in an extra 5-inch pocket by 12 inches wide. Actually, it's 13 inches wide by 14 and a half. But I sewn that inside of it. My Altoids tin holder, small pocket. I put another small one in right there. I came back. We seen that I sewn in the bigger pocket, which would hold my Right in the Rain journal. Because generally when I'm out scouting around, I like to sit down, see what I see, come up with, test wood, test plants, see how I do with them and stuff like that. But it's done. Fits well. Like I said in the beginning, it's kind of a prototype. And get it readjusted there. It's kind of a prototype for me to see how well I do with that sewing machine, and see if I want to make some more of them. Just for me, maybe some friends or something if they wanted some. Might even do a giveaway or give some of them away to somebody. But anyway, that's it. I'm going to take it in a minute. And while this video is uploading, I'll probably dye it green, one of my favorite colors, and we'll see how well it dyes. I mean, the worst thing can happen is it looks funky, but then again, I didn't get invited to the fashion show. So I hope y'all like that. Hope it give you some ideas if you were looking on how to do one of them, because I've kind of looked around on there and seen how some were made, and I came up with this idea here. I've made several haversacks, not very many of them in here. I think there's 4 or 5 in here. It's just something that when you're out in the woods, you can grab your stuff and go with it. Hope you enjoyed it. So if you liked it, hit subscribe. You might see something else one day that you didn't know you would see, and you would have saved yourself some time. If you didn't like it, tell me what you didn't like about it, because remember, your comments make me change or go the different direction into a better way. So if you see something I did wrong, let me know. If you've seen something I could have done easier, let me know, because that would be a whole lot easier. It took about an hour and a half to make that. Way I look at it is I just saved 30 bucks. So now I'm at 60 bucks on the sewing machine. So there you go. Hope you liked it. Thanks.